Lexus has never built a vehicle under 170 inches long. Until now, the 2027 LBX changes that, and depending on how you feel about what Lexus has stood for since 1989, that single fact is either the most exciting thing they've done in years or the beginning of something you're not going to like. Here's what's actually at stake. Lexus built its reputation on the promise of a different kind of luxury, not flashy, not aggressive, but precise, composed. The kind of car you bought when you were done proving things to other people. The LBX is 167 inches long. That's shorter than a Honda Fit, and Lexus is positioning it as their entry point into a new generation of buyers. The question every long-time Lexus owner should be asking right now is this: when a brand chases a younger, smaller market, what gets left behind? We're going to find out. Standing in front of the LBX, the first thing you notice is that Lexus didn't scale down. They compressed. The spindle grille is still here, but it's been sharpened and flattened into something more aggressive than anything you'd have seen on an ES or an RX a decade ago. The hood is short and pulled tight, which gives the front end a coiled, forward-leaning stance. It doesn't look like a miniature luxury SUV. It looks intentional. Now, personally, I think the front end is the strongest part of this design. There's a tension here between the aggressive upper grille mesh and the softer, almost sculpted lower air intakes that keeps it from looking generic. Most subcompact luxury SUVs fall into one of two traps. They either try too hard and look cartoonish, or they play it safe and disappear in a parking lot. The LBX avoids both. Whether that holds as you move around the car is a different question. This is where things get interesting from my perspective, and not entirely in a good way. The taillights are connected by a full-width LED strip, which is a trend that feels like it's already aging. Lexus is late to this particular party, and it shows. The rest of the rear is clean, maybe too clean. The proportions are compact, but the surfacing is smooth to the point of being anonymous. From behind, you could mistake this for a dozen other small SUVs without the badge. That said, there's one detail worth noting. The way the rear haunches flare out slightly before meeting the taillights gives the LBX a planted confidence stance that most cars in this size class simply don't have. It saves the rear from being forgettable, but only just. Step inside, and the scale shift is immediate. Lexus claims this cabin is efficiency-focused, which is their way of saying they made deliberate choices about what to keep and what to cut. The overall impression is tighter than what you'd expect from the brand, but not in a way that feels cheap. Think less like a downsized luxury car and more like a Japanese apartment. Every inch considered, nothing wasted. The dashboard is dominated by a 9.8-inch touchscreen running Lexus's latest interface, and this is where I have a problem. The screen is positioned well, angled slightly toward the driver at a natural sightline, but the haptic feedback buttons that replaced physical HVAC controls feel like a compromise. There's a reason pilots and surgeons still use physical switches for critical functions. Touch-dependent controls in a moving vehicle are a step backward dressed up as progress. I've said this about other brands, and I'll say it here. The industry needs to stop pretending that eliminating buttons is the same as improving ergonomics. The wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integration are seamless, and the 13-speaker Mark Levinson audio option is, frankly, remarkable for a car this size. The kind of sound you used to have to buy a full-size sedan to hear. The front seats carry Lexus's signature blend of firm lateral support and just enough give in the lower cushion for longer drives. The leather, in upper trims, has that particular weight to it, a density in the grain that reminds you of the first time you sat in something that cost real money. The rear seats are honest, adequate for 2 adults, tight for 3, and the 23.5 cubic feet of cargo space behind them is workable but not generous. Under the hood, the LBX gets a 1.5-liter 3-cylinder hybrid system, producing a combined 136 horsepower. Here's the number Lexus buried in the fine print of the press release: 0 to 60 in 8.2 seconds. For context, the 1990 Lexus LS400, their launch car, their statement of intent, hit 60 in 7.1 seconds. A flagship sedan from 35 years ago is quicker than their newest entry-level offering. Make of that what you will. The hybrid system is paired with a self-charging setup, no plug required, which actually makes sense for the target buyer, someone who wants efficiency without the infrastructure headache. Here's the real question the LBX forces onto the table. Lexus has always been about substance over statement. The LBX is a statement car. Small, visible, style for attention. That's not inherently wrong. But it does mean that for the first time, Lexus is asking you to define luxury differently than you have for the last 3 decades. Whether that's growth or drift depends on what you think the brand was actually selling you all along. Drop your answer in the comments. I read every one. And if you want to see how the LBX stacks up against the BMW X1 and Audi Q3 in real numbers, that video is next. Let me be honest with you right from the start. I have been following the automotive industry for a long time, and every now and then, something comes along that genuinely stops me in my tracks. Not because of hype, not because of marketing spin, but because the product itself forces you to reconsider what you thought you knew about a brand, about a segment, and about where the market is actually heading. The 2027 Lexus LBX is one of those moments. Now I know what some of you are already thinking. A small Lexus, a compact luxury SUV from a brand that has spent decades building its identity around full-size refinement, smooth V8 sedans, and flagship SUVs that practically glide down the highway. Yes, that is exactly what we are talking about. And I want to take you through why this vehicle, as unusual as it may seem at first glance, might actually be one of the smartest moves Lexus has made in years, maybe ever. Let us start with context, because context is everything in this industry. The luxury compact SUV segment has exploded over the past decade in a way that very few analysts predicted with accuracy. We have seen brands scramble to fill this space. German brands especially have poured enormous resources into smaller and smaller luxury offerings. The logic is simple, and it has proven correct time and again. Buyers want the prestige badge. They want the quality materials. They want the driving refinement, but they do not always want the full-size footprint, the full-size price tag, or the full-size fuel costs. This created an opening, and that opening has only grown wider as urban density increases and fuel economy awareness continues to shape purchasing decisions across every income bracket. Lexus watched all of this, and to their credit, they did not rush in. That restraint is something I personally respect about Toyota's luxury division. They are not a brand that chases trends blindly. They have a history of waiting, studying, and then entering a segment with something that is either genuinely better or genuinely different. Sometimes both. The original LS400 back in 1989 is still referenced in automotive history as the moment Japanese luxury became impossible to dismiss. They did not rush that car. They engineered it for years before it ever reached a showroom floor. And the result was something that genuinely shook Mercedes and BMW in a way that still reverberates through the industry. I believe the LBX carries some of that same energy, but let me explain why. The platform underneath the LBX is not some hastily adapted economy car foundation with luxury trims slapped on top. It is built on Toyota's JB platform, which is the same architecture that underpins the GR Yaris, a car that has been celebrated globally for its rigidity, its dynamics, and its ability to punch well above its weight class. When you build a luxury vehicle on a platform with that kind of genetic code, you are starting from a position of genuine engineering integrity rather than compromise. And that matters more than most people realize when it comes to long-term ownership satisfaction. Here is my personal take on this. The single biggest mistake luxury automakers make when going small is treating the smaller vehicle as a lesser vehicle. Buyers notice this. Even buyers who cannot articulate exactly what feels off will feel it. The steering that lacks weight and communication. The suspension that absorbs bumps but communicates nothing about what the road is doing. The interior that looks premium in photographs but feels hollow when you actually sit inside. These compromises are the reason so many luxury compact SUVs have failed to hold their residual values or build genuine brand loyalty in their segment. Lexus appears to have understood this problem deeply, and the LBX seems designed from the ground up to avoid it. The powertrain situation is worth discussing in some depth because it tells you a lot about the philosophy behind this vehicle. In most markets, the LBX is being offered exclusively as a hybrid, not a mild hybrid, not a 48-volt belt-integrated system dressed up with eco-badges. A genuine full hybrid system derived from Toyota's decades of hybrid development. This is the same foundational technology that has been refined across millions of vehicles in real-world conditions across every climate and every driving pattern imaginable. It is not experimental. It is not a first-generation leap of faith. It is mature, proven technology applied to a new context. What this means practically is that the LBX is expected to deliver fuel economy figures that will make its German competitors look genuinely embarrassed. We are talking about efficiency numbers that in everyday urban and suburban driving push well past what any turbocharged four-cylinder in this segment can achieve. And for buyers who live in cities, who do school runs and grocery trips and weekend excursions, that efficiency is not a footnote. It is a meaningful part of the ownership experience every single week. But here is where I want to push back slightly on a narrative you might hear from some corners of the automotive press. There are critics who will say that a hybrid powertrain in a luxury compact SUV is playing it safe, that Lexus should have gone fully electric with the LBX to compete with what Audi and BMW are doing at the smaller end of their EV lineups. I understand that argument. I genuinely do. But I think it misreads both the market and the technology landscape as it actually exists right now. Full battery electric vehicles in the compact luxury segment are still struggling with real-world range anxiety in cold climates, charging infrastructure gaps outside major metropolitan areas, and resale value uncertainty that is making savvy buyers hesitant. The hybrid approach allows Lexus to offer genuine efficiency without asking buyers to make any compromises in their daily routine. No range calculations, no hunting for fast chargers, no planning trips around charging stops. You fill it up. You drive it. It saves you fuel automatically. For buyers who are not early technology adopters, this is not a backward choice. It is actually the practical choice. And the demographic reality of who buys luxury vehicles in the United States right now supports this assessment. The buyers who have significant disposable income, who have worked hard over long careers to reach a point where a Lexus makes sense in their driveway, are often buyers who value reliability and convenience above novelty. They have seen enough technology cycles to know that first-generation anything tends to come with first-generation problems. Proven reliability is not a boring selling point to them. It is a fundamental requirement. Lexus has the highest reliability ratings in the industry, consistently, year after year, study after study. This is not an accident. It is a cultural commitment at Toyota that flows directly into everything Lexus produces. The LBX inherits this reputation, and in a segment where German competitors have struggled significantly with long-term reliability and costly repair bills, that reputation is worth real money to buyers. Let me talk about the competitive landscape for a moment because I think it illuminates just how well-positioned the LBX actually is. The obvious comparison points are the BMW X1, the Audi Q3, the Mercedes GLA, and to a lesser extent the Volvo XC40. These are all credible vehicles from credible brands. But when you map the LBX against them on the criteria that mature, experienced buyers actually care about, a very interesting picture emerges. The BMW X1 is dynamically excellent, but its reliability record over 5 to 7 year ownership periods has been concerning. Maintenance costs once the warranty expires can surprise owners who were not prepared for the frequency and expense of required service intervals. The Audi Q3 suffers from similar long-term cost patterns, and Audi's DSG transmission has a documented sensitivity that not all buyers are aware of when they sign the paperwork. The Mercedes GLA has improved significantly in recent years, but Mercedes overall has faced reputation challenges around software reliability and first-year ownership glitches that have been widely reported. Against all of these, a Lexus LBX powered by mature hybrid technology, carrying one of the best warranty structures in the industry, and backed by a dealer network with genuinely high customer satisfaction scores, represents a very compelling alternative, especially for buyers who intend to keep their vehicles for 5, 6, 7 years or more, rather than cycling through on short leases. Now here is where my personal analysis gets a little more speculative, but I think it is worth discussing. The LBX is technically positioned below the UX in the Lexus lineup, and the UX has had a complicated history. It was not universally embraced when it launched, partly because it occupied a slightly awkward space in the lineup, and partly because its powertrain options felt somewhat limited for the price point. The LBX, interestingly, does not feel like a UX replacement so much as a philosophical restatement. A new attempt to answer the question of what a small Lexus should feel like and what it should mean to own one. If Lexus gets the pricing right on the LBX for the American market, and I genuinely believe they understand what is at stake here, this vehicle could pull conquest buyers from German brands in a way that the UX never fully managed. The buyers who were interested in a Q3 or a GLA but found themselves hesitating over long-term costs, over reliability concerns, over the sense that they were paying for a badge without full confidence in what was behind it. These buyers exist in significant numbers, and the LBX is potentially the vehicle that finally gives them a clear alternative. There is also a generational transition happening in luxury SUV buying that I think deserves more attention than it usually gets. Buyers who came of age during the Japanese quality revolution of the 1980s and 1990s, who remember what it meant when Toyota and Honda started building cars that simply never broke, who watched Lexus arrive and rewrite the rules of what reliable luxury could look like. These buyers are now at the peak of their earning and spending years. They understand the Lexus story intimately, they trust it viscerally, and as they look at vehicles for their own use, or increasingly as they look at vehicles for other family members, the LBX speaks directly to values they formed over decades of automotive experience. This is not a small market. This is actually one of the most financially significant buyer demographics in the entire automotive ecosystem. Let me also touch on something that does not get discussed enough in automotive coverage: the total cost of ownership picture, and why it matters so much more than the sticker price. When you buy a compact luxury SUV today, you are not just buying the vehicle. You are buying every service visit, every tire rotation, every sensor replacement, every software update, every unexpected repair that comes with it over the years you own it. For the German brands in this segment, those costs can be substantial and can arrive earlier in the ownership cycle than many buyers anticipate. Lexus service costs, historically, are significantly lower. Their vehicles require less frequent intervention. When something does need attention, the labor costs tend to be lower and the parts tend to be more readily available. Over a 5-year ownership period, this difference can represent several $1,000s, sometimes considerably more. That is money that either stays in your pocket or goes towards something else you actually want. For buyers who think carefully about financial decisions, and most successful people do, this calculation is not abstract. It is real and it is meaningful. The hybrid system in the LBX adds another layer to this calculation. Fuel savings over 5 years of typical driving are not trivial. Depending on local fuel prices and driving patterns, a genuine hybrid advantage over a conventional turbocharged engine can translate to meaningful annual savings. And that fuel system, because it reduces reliance on the internal combustion engine through regenerative braking and electric-only operation at low speeds, also tends to reduce wear on brakes and on the engine itself. The braking system on a hybrid vehicle often lasts significantly longer than on a conventional vehicle because kinetic energy that would otherwise wear your brake pads is being converted into electrical energy instead. These are not marketing talking points. These are engineering realities that play out in real ownership experiences. I want to be clear about something before I wrap up this analysis. I am genuinely impressed by what Lexus appears to be attempting with the LBX. But I am not writing them a blank check. There are real questions that need answers before we can fully assess this vehicle. The pricing for the American market will be critical. If Lexus gets greedy and positions the LBX too close to the NX, they will undermine the very logic of having the LBX in the lineup at all. It needs to be priced accessibly enough to genuinely threaten the German compact class while being premium enough to maintain the brand integrity that makes Lexus worth considering in the first place. This is a genuinely difficult balancing act, and they need to get it right. The dealer experience will also matter enormously. Lexus has built a reputation for exceptional customer service, and that reputation is part of what buyers are paying for when they choose a Lexus over an equivalent Toyota. Maintaining that service culture as the brand expands its lineup and potentially reaches new buyer demographics requires deliberate and sustained effort. Diluting the ownership experience to chase volume would be a costly mistake that could undermine years of carefully built brand equity. And then there is the question of whether the LBX will be perceived as a genuine Lexus or as a premium Toyota in disguise. This is a real risk for any brand attempting to extend down market, even slightly. Lexus has managed this challenge reasonably well in the past, but the LBX is pushing into territory that requires especially careful differentiation from the broader Toyota family. My honest read on all of this: Lexus knows these risks better than almost any outside commentator. They have navigated the luxury compact space before. They have made mistakes before. And they have consistently shown the ability to learn from those mistakes and come back with something more refined. I expect the LBX to arrive in American showrooms as a genuinely considered product, not a rushed one. The market it is entering is real, the need it addresses is real, and the engineering foundation beneath it is more serious than its compact dimensions might suggest. If you have been watching the luxury compact segment wondering when someone was going to challenge the German dominance with a product that prioritizes reliability and efficiency as genuine luxury qualities rather than afterthoughts, the 2027 Lexus LBX might be exactly what you have been waiting for. And if that turns out to be true, the entire compact luxury SUV market is going to feel it. There is a moment in every automotive cycle when a brand does something that genuinely reframes the conversation. Not a refresh, not a new color option or a tech package update. Something that makes you sit back and reconsider the entire direction a company is heading. I have been watching the car industry for a long time now, and I can tell you with confidence that those moments are rarer than the marketing departments of every major automaker would like you to believe. But when they happen, they are worth paying attention to very carefully. The 2027 Lexus LBX is one of those moments. And I say that as someone who did not expect to be saying it. When Lexus first started signaling that they were moving into the ultra-compact luxury SUV territory, my initial reaction was skepticism. Not because I doubted Lexus as a brand, but because I have watched too many automakers stumble badly when they try to shrink their identity into a smaller package. The temptation to cut corners is enormous when you are building something at the lower end of your lineup. The pressures on cost, on margin, on differentiation from your mainstream siblings are all working against you simultaneously. Most brands make compromises they later regret, and buyers feel those compromises even when they cannot name them precisely. So my question when the LBX first appeared on my radar was simple: did Lexus fall into that trap, or did they find a way around it? Based on everything I have been able to study about this vehicle, I believe they found a way around it, and I want to walk you through exactly why I think that, because the reasoning matters as much as the conclusion. Let us start with the foundation, because in automotive engineering, foundations tell you almost everything about what a vehicle is actually capable of becoming. The LBX rides on the GAB platform. Now, if that name does not immediately register for you, let me give you context that will make it register permanently. The GAB architecture is the same platform that Toyota used to build the GR Yaris. If you follow motorsport, or if you follow genuine driver-focused engineering at all, you know exactly what that means. The GR Yaris is not a normal small car. It is a vehicle that was engineered by a company that wanted to go rally racing, that needed a homologation car to do it, and that decided to build something extraordinary in the process. The structural rigidity of that platform, the torsional stiffness, the geometry that enables precise suspension tuning, all of that flows directly into the LBX. When you build a luxury vehicle on top of a chassis that was designed with performance integrity as a primary objective rather than cost reduction, you are starting from a completely different place than brands that simply stretch or shrink existing economy platforms and dress them in expensive materials. The difference is not always visible, but it is always felt. This is actually my first strong personal opinion about the LBX, and I want to be direct about it. I think the platform choice is the single most important decision Lexus made during the development of this vehicle. It is the decision that separates the LBX from being just another badge-engineered small luxury crossover and positions it as something with genuine engineering character. In a segment full of vehicles that feel competent but forgettable, a chassis with real bones is the starting point for something memorable. Now let us talk about the powertrain situation, because this is where Lexus made a decision that will be debated, and I want to give you my honest assessment of that debate. In the majority of global markets, the LBX is being offered as a hybrid-only vehicle. There is no conventional gasoline-only option for most buyers.